Before we go into consent, I just want to let everyone know what we'll be doing for the meeting today. So we're gonna go through consent. We'll go through the recognition and presentations. We're gonna skip 7A. We'll go into staff reports, general manager communications, board communications, and then we'll go into closed session. Because our closed session is linked to 7A. So we'll go into closed session and then we'll come out and address agenda item 7A. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 5A through 5E. Are there any items that the directors would like to pull?
I don't want to pull anything.
Sure.
I just wanted to comment that the meeting minutes had our city's interchange or something. So it's listed as you being City of Pacific Grove.
Okay.
So if you could just correct it. It's my error, but thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Yes, Peter.
Also, the meeting in the minutes there show me as being here last month. I was not,
Okay.
and so they need to be correct.
Okay. I thought I done.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing for Councilmember Alexis.
Okay. All right. I know you have those changes.
I do.
Okay, great. And there was actually, while we're talking about that, at our meeting with the chair and vice chair, we did talk about extending the motion for that. So you got the edits in terms of, we talked about planning for emergency closures due to, you know, weather events and or other events or issues. So we just wanted to expand on that. Okay. Does the public want to pull anything from the consent? Okay, I'll bring it back to the directors for a motion.
So moved. Second.
All right, moved by Director Delgado, seconded by Dr. Barber. Roll call, please.
Dr. Askew,
Aye.
Dr. Barber,
Aye.
Dr. Blackwelder,
Yes.
Dr. Byrne,
Yes.
Dr. McKee,
Yes.
Dr. Pedori.
Aye.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Yes.
Chair Shirley,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to recognition and presentations. Our first one is a presentation of resolution 2503, appreciation for former Director Karen Ferlito. So we have a resolution here that I'll go ahead and I'll read. Resolution and appreciation for Karen. Whereas Karen Ferlito has served as Director of ReGen Monterey, representing the city of Carmel by the Sea, and has demonstrated exceptional commitment during her tenure. And whereas she served on ReGen's Personnel Committee, providing direction to the Board of Directors on personnel and union matters. And whereas she has been a passionate advocate for sustainability and environmental stewardship, promoting initiatives that align with ReGen Monterey's mission to do more to waste less. And whereas she has contributed to heightened public awareness of our society's reliance on plastic and shared innovative and practical ideas for reducing single-use plastics, such as alternatives to traditional laundry detergent and cleaning products, thereby leading by example. And whereas her ideas and dedication have greatly contributed to education, providing insights to ensure the public's clear understanding of recycling, composting, and ReGen Monterey's role as a special district to the community it serves. And whereas her contributions as board members ensured that the greater sustainability picture was taken into consideration before a decision was made. And whereas her tenure on ReGen's board was brief, the impact of her contributions are immeasurable and everlasting, and of everlasting value to the ReGen and community we serve. Now, therefore, it be it resolved that the Board of Directors, on behalf of all members, staff, and board members of ReGen Monterey, expresses its heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to Karen Ferlito for her outstanding services as director. You?
You know, I'm going to want to say something. I am very honored. The words that you wrote really reflect my feelings about ReGen and the fabulous job you are all doing. People put trash into their cans or their recycle or their compost, and they don't think anything about where it's going and who's doing all that work. And, you know, I became involved with ReGen many years ago when the marathon decided that we were producing way too much waste. We had boxes and boxes of waste management, you know, the big things, and it was all going away. And we looked at that and we said, this is not okay to put an event of this size and not be responsible for the waste produced. Well, I was the chair and we started getting ready to be certified by the Council on Responsible Sports. And in 2009, we achieved gold status, our first time out of the block, for both the marathon and the half marathon, diverting over 90-some% each year. Whether we donate the food, we donate the leftover clothing, we buy sustainable products, which costs a lot more, but we wanted to do that, and we have continued to do that all these years. So I'm very proud of that. But what made that work was ReGen, which was not named ReGen at that time, but Jeff Lindenthal and some of the wonderful workers here joined hands with us, and they created the opportunity to chop up all the compostable things and help us be successful. If that hadn't happened, AT&T then followed. A lot of the other special events in the county have followed. More should be following, but we really looked at it as the right thing to do. We also provided grants to Girls Inc. because they man each receptacle area for those products, so that the runners who are really pretty tired at the time don't have to make the decision, what goes here, those kids, and they learn through that process. We also have volunteer groups who sort all the stuff at the end of the marathon. It's dirty work. The first year I was in the dumpster with my tan pants and my blue blazer. I got a black eye actually, because I walked into something. I was in the muck with everybody else because I said, I won't ask people to do something that I won't do myself. Well, fast forward when Carrie Tice, who ably represented our city, stepped down from the council, I lobbied to get this position because I wanted to be here. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for all of our and I say our because I still feel like that, all of our incredible employees at this enterprise. You have done remarkable work, and you do it every single day, rain or shine. I am especially grateful for Felipe's leadership because he has been so successful in bringing the employees to the point where they feel confident to negotiate a 5-year contract, which is totally unusual in an industry. That was a remarkable thing. I'm grateful to Helen for bringing to the board the opportunity to pay forward on PERS so that ultimately many millions of dollars will be saved. I'm grateful to everyone in this room. I'm sorry Zoe isn't here because she and I still email back and forth with ideas for sustainability. She's been incredible. Eric has spread the word so ably. I mean, it's just incredible. And Jay, my dear friend Jay, and I have been connected for, I think, since about 2009 with that initial marathon endeavor. And I just miss all of you. It's not just the donuts that but I encourage all of you, and many of you have been here more years than I, but I encourage all of the new members to really understand the difference between the haulers and ReGen and what they each do, and take the messages back to your councils whenever you can about safety, about not putting batteries in the canisters, about how to actually recycle correctly, compost correctly. We all have to be in the information game. One thing I will really also miss is that holiday party, and I encourage all of you, when the holiday party comes back in 2026 or whatever it is, go. It is so much fun to see people who work so hard every day in a very dirty environment, a lot of it dressed to the nines, having fun, dancing. It is just really a great experience, and I encourage you to be as involved as possible in your commitment at ReGen. The last thing I want to say is I think it's so valuable, our special districts and our other outside of our little towns experiences, is that we get to hear and see what other people are doing and appreciate that. It was nice that Dale shared today about the cigarette butt holders and so on. It's an opportunity to get out of your little isolated, insulated spot and understand that we are a peninsula. And our peninsula could really be one city, the size of it, but we operate in little silos sometimes, and it's good to share and be part of all the solutions that are coming forward. So I thank you for the honor of serving for 2 years. I really enjoyed every minute of it. I looked forward, even driving out here today, I thought, oh boy, I get to do this again. And it was great. So thank you very much. And best of luck to you. And if ever I can do anything to help you spread the word or whatever, just let me know, because I'm still in that educational game. Received this from Berta, and it was at the holiday party this year where we danced up a storm. Thank you again.
Thank you, Karen. I think the communications department needs to hire you. I said the communications department needs to hire you. That could be your next job.
I'll work with you. Thank you.
Any comments from the board?
I do.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you so much, Karen. You've been awesome. I know when I came on the board and I was new, you were always very friendly, ready to answer questions and work together at any time about, anything. And I really appreciate your spirit and your zeal. It just is so inspiring for what you've done and what you continue to do. So thank you so much for your service.
I appreciate that, Dr. Barber, very much. Kim.
That's right.
That's
Yeah, Karen, I enjoyed you being on the board because sometimes I think that I'm trying to convince other people to do things I might think are important. And with you on the board, I could just sit back and say, yeah, you go. I really appreciated your sustainability thrust. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you always showed your passion. We always knew that you had great ideas and you shared them, and it's just so appreciated. I mean, this board is already nice, but it's even nicer when you have people on the board who are showing that enthusiasm. So thank you for that.
I'd just like to add a comment too. I think you were very motivating for the rest of the board members. You looked at the segments and different aspects, which creates a better unity between all of us. So we appreciate your spirit and your continued effort around keeping our environment the way we encountered it. So we're very appreciative of all your service and dedication to ReGen and to all the communities of the peninsula. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 6B, recognition of Hortensia Fernandez, Sorter 2 for 25 years of service.
So thank you, Chair. At this time, I'd like to still recognize Hortensia Fernandez for 25 years of service. She was a little shy of coming to this meeting, and so we could not convince her to come here, but I did promise to talk a little bit about her service and tenure. Her dedication is unwavering. She attends work regularly. She's easy to work to and is a cross-trained employee at the MRF. So we're very excited to announce her 25-year tenure to Hortensia Fernandez for her dedication and service to ReGen Monterey. I'm gonna have David share the little video clip of where we still recognize Hortensia, so she gets a little view of what could have been. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Hortensia Fernandez. Appreciate it. Okay, so we will skip 7A for right now, and we'll move on to staff reports, the Technical Advisory Committee update. Kristen,
Good morning.
good
I
morning.
think we're missing a podium. That's okay. Stand. I wanted to share out on behalf of Zoe Schutz. I'm Kristen O'Hara, I'm the Communications Manager here at ReGen. And the Technical Advisory Committee meets monthly. What we do, a little bit of background for our newest board members, is we're initially formed to come together to decide on a common franchise hauler back in 2012, 2011. And the TAC has really continued to work together to have unified programs in the implementation of SB 1383. So with that, we've developed really good relationships with city staff, with one another, but then also with the haulers that are present at these meetings as well. So it's been a wonderful group to collaborate with. And the purpose has been to really have programs, whether you live in the city of Carmel, city of Monterey, you work in Marina, to all have the same messaging so that wherever you go, you don't really have to think about, oh, is this recyclable here but not here, or is organics goods here and not there? So it's a really wonderful group. Your staff is amazing. We have come together to make recommendations to the board. We don't make decisions. So with that, I have 4 updates from January. The first update is the franchise agreement process for 2030. So the current franchise hauler for greenways cities, excluding the city of Monterey, everyone has greenways. Monterey Disposal serves the city of Monterey. They're coming up on their contract expiration dates, which is 2030. So it may seem early, 2025, to start thinking about a potential RFP, request for proposals, to either continue on with services, extend the agreement with Green Waste Recovery and Monterey Disposal, or consider going out to bid for a new hauler for collection services in your jurisdiction. So what we've discussed is the timeline leading up to 2030 and a strategy. We've made the recommendation to form a subgroup to focus on this topic solely. And we'll continue to share our progress in our discussions regarding the possibility of an RFP for hauling services. So now is the time, really. We're 5 years out. This process takes at least 3 years. So the second item, back in December 2024, we received a surprise visit from CalRecycle, their enforcement branch, which the acronym is JACE. And they stand for Jurisdiction, Agency, Compliance, and Enforcement. And JACE came in with their CalRecycle vests on. A couple of employees huddled saying, oh, were you expecting CalRecycle? Were you expecting CalRecycle? And we really weren't. It was a surprise visit. So we launched into action and asked them, what are you here for? They stated that they wanted to inspect loads from the franchise haulers and take pictures of the solid waste, of the recycling, of the organics, just to document what they were seeing. So what we had to do was call up all the haulers, Waste Management, Monterey Disposal, hey, when's your load from Captiville coming through? And then had them take pictures at the appropriate operation on site. So it was a lot of coordination. Luckily, I was able to help out. And because of the Technical Advisory Committee, I have really good relationships with all the haulers. So we were able to get them answers right away. And it was a very smooth process. And we learned a lot about JACE, the enforcement branch. We've always wondered, are they going to come down with that strong hammer on us if we're not compliant? And they really opened our eyes and said, you know what, we're here to provide recommendations to reach compliance if you're out of compliance. And it really was nice to put a face to enforcement because we really haven't had that much engagement. This has been the first year of enforcement on the jurisdictions. And so far, only the city of Monterey has had a compliance review. And each of your jurisdictions will have to go through the compliance process within the next 3 years. So no one can escape Jace. But the good news is, with the technical advisory committee, we have well prepared your staff to reach full compliance with the requirements of SB 1383, the mandate that requires food getting out of the landfill and into the compost. It's so much more than just that, but we can fill you in as we go. The third item I wanted to share was at the last board meeting, for those that were here, Eric Palmer presented the edible food grant awards to 6 organizations. And this is also part of SB 1383 mandate that essentially says any edible food that is still good needs to be donated. So with that, we have found that edible food needs more infrastructure. The food pantries need assistance. So we actually developed a grant to help these folks, secure more safe storage, refrigeration, oven units, cargo vans, staff time. And these people that run these organizations are extremely hardworking. So we awarded 6 organizations a total of $98,872. So almost 100 grand. The organizations that receive funding include Cypress Church in Salinas, St. Paul Episcopal Church in Salinas, Shoreline Church in Monterey, Dorothy's Place in Salinas, Salvation Army in Seaside, Salvation Army in South Monterey County. So we take a lot of pride in this program, and we were really pleased to make those connections with those organizations. And this grant has gone through several cycles and will continue to give you updates on the next grant cycle available. The last item I have for you is Green Waste Recovery. They presented their public education outreach plan for 2025. And that was at the Technical Advisory Committee meeting. We didn't receive any feedback from your staff, but we would like that to change. We would like everyone to engage a bit more. So for the next year, 2026, we will be asking Green Waste Recovery to present their plan a little bit earlier, so we have time to provide feedback and recommendations for anything that could be improved. So, and with that, that is my update on behalf of Zoe Shep.
Great.
So, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Kristen. I just first want to say, I love the tech. I honestly think this was such a fabulous group. And it really shows what collaboration can do. And congratulations on handling the Cal Recycle surprise visit. I think I'm not surprised that it went well and that you all did great. So congratulations on that. And in terms of the public education outreach for green waste, I feel like it has been improving. So
Great.
and I think that it's that involvement again with the TAC that, where you guys exchange ideas. And I think I've seen it get better, but I think getting input from the jurisdictions is also a great idea. So anyways, I just want to thank you. I think
Thank you.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yes, Director Delgado.
I'm really happy that you're talking about 2030. I don't recall a 5-year notice last time we went through this. And I think it's enough time to get the public more involved. And what I'm thinking is if ReGen could draft a summary page talking about what you've said about 2030, and then board members and city websites could distribute that to the public so that this year and every year after this year, we can send out one announcement saying 2030, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years away. We want to hear from you how the hauler can better serve you with organics or recycling or waste. Because maybe people don't understand and they want to understand better how to do batteries, how they do motor oil. I just put motor oil on top of my bin a couple weeks ago, and when I came back home from work, there was a new empty jug. And the message was, hey, dummy, don't just put your oil on top, put it in this jug. It was like, well, how do I get that jug in advance? I didn't know they gave jugs.
Yeah.
And the jug is kind of all dirty and really used. So it's like there was no note. And so I think, okay, this worked pretty well for my first try. I need to do better, and I need to ask how to do better. And some people might want services. My mom is 96, and down south, they for $1 a month they take her bins to the curb. But all these things the public might want, that they don't know, that there's a cycle coming up, and
Mhm.
so the TAC is one thing, which is fantastic, and our board's another thing, and staff here at ReGen. But the public might have a lot of different ideas that we don't know about.
Agreed, and the public will be engaged with on a higher level than ever before, so we're really excited for that.
So do you think that process could happen where the city of whatever gets a notice that then we can distribute to people so they can start sending in comments?
Absolutely, yeah, and what's interesting and unique about this process is the city of Monterey is also in line with these contracts in the peninsula cities. So Monterey Disposal may actually go out to bid with the green waste recovery cities as well. So that would create potentially an even more unified maybe one hauler for city of Monterey as well. So that's new and different.
Could it ever go the other way?
Potentially, yeah.
Like green waste bids for Monterey.
Oh, yeah, everyone will bid on all of the jurisdictions together, so we'll see how that shakes out. But we are looking to contract with a consultant to help guide us through this process because it is a really heavy lift to manage an RFP of this size. So we'll be putting those proposals before you with scope of work. So, yeah, great question, thank you.
And just on that same topic, but it sounds like there's also an option to extend our contract, so not
Correct.
necessarily go out for an RFP.
Correct. So we want to consider all of our options. We're working with the haulers right now to identify areas where they have really high marks, areas for improvement, and develop a scorecard performance review. So it's not just we're going out to RFP. No, that's not the only option. So this subgroup that is part of the TAC will be not deciding, but recommending a course of action. We recommend based on the performance of these haulers that we extend, or it might be in the best interest to go out to RFP. Or maybe there's a third option we don't even know about, we haven't considered. So we're very open to all the possibilities at this point.
And as Director Delgado mentioned, getting public feedback, will you get public feedback before you decide on that avenue?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Job security, Karen.
Send Karen out.
Are you contracting at the moment?
I was thinking public outreach.
Great.
All right. Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Any other? Yeah.
Yeah, can I just to extend that same point, is the TAC responsible for just considering who else will be the hauler, or do you take it a step back to analyze whether in-house hauling is a possibility or not?
Yeah, so that's why we're considering hiring a consultant, so it's not all on the shoulders of the TAC representatives or our agency here. So the consultant will really be providing the best options in front of us. And have we ever considered hauling ourselves? That's a possibility, but it requires a lot of capital to invest in the infrastructure and trucks and everything that comes with that. But we do have an amazing truck yard here, so we have that infrastructure, but that's a great question.
Okay, and kudos to you on the impromptu Jace with the handling all those
Thank
things
you.
correctly. So you mentioned this will kind of like get back to the cities and Jace will like come to the cities now.
Yes.
Is that for SB 1383 in particular, or is it something else too?
It is for specifically 1383, and so there's a long checklist of items they're looking for, and the main thing they're looking for is making sure that all commercial customers have an organic collection system in place, and if they don't, then why? How come? Are they lacking space because they're in the city of Carmel and there's no space for cars? Or is it because they don't generate food scraps, they're a gas station or a laundromat? So a lot of waivers are out there to help folks say, you know what, we don't generate any organics on site. So they will be looking at all those details. The city staff or jurisdiction staff in each of your jurisdictions, they have all of this documented on a platform called Recyclist. And what we do is we gain access to Recyclist and we hand over that access to Jace at Recycle. They go in and check everything they're looking for and say, oh, check, you guys passed your compliance test. Or, oh, here are some areas that you need improvement on. And it gets down to the details of even like paper procurement. Are you buying post-consumer recycled content for your jurisdiction? So it's not just organics. It's anything that could potentially be organics as well, and edible food, and the inspections of edible food generators like restaurants. We have a grant that helps us comply with these activities, and we hire contractors to help us with this work. We certainly cannot do it alone. City staff cannot do it alone, which is why the tech is so beneficial, because we all come together and we share the load. So it's a really wonderful group. If you ever, any of you want to join the tech, hop in, we can send you the invite, and you can see the amazing work that your staff is doing.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Couple things. First, the edible food grant program, how does a facility or a group that does that find out about it and apply?
Yeah, so we actually contract with Blue Strike Environmental. And Blue Strike Environmental is a nonprofit organization that reaches out to all of the edible food pantries or recovery organizations. They let them know about the grant application process, when the next cycle is occurring. They have really good relationships with all of the food recovery organizations in Monterey County. So let's say someone wasn't selected for this last cycle. They will then be notified by Blue Strike Environmental, hey, there's another grant cycle coming up. Your application was lacking in these areas. If you tweak it, then you'll be considered a little bit more eligible. And AirCare has been part of the ranking process to score how the edible food recovery grant applicants and their applications look. And then there is a subcommittee for edible food recovery as part of the TAC. And they go through and compare their scores with one another. And the highest scores are the ones that are eligible based on what they're proposing to purchase with the grant funds. So it's a great group. And we are very much in tune with all of the recovery organizations in Monterey County.
Those organizations are incredible what they do.
Yes.
Another question, we have a restaurant that I've been working with in Carmel that's buying the mill machines, do their on-site composting,
Yeah,
with the goal that they won't have any external green waste,
that's incredible.
which is sort of bad because you have a compost facility, but are you involved with what that means to 1383 and the impact on it? Because if it works, we won't be sending any green waste anymore, and I don't want to be docked for being good citizens.
You know, I hear you. So for anyone that doesn't know, there's an organization called The Mill that generates a product that's in-home composter or for your business. And you put your food scraps in, it plugs in, it heats it up, and you create your own compost at your facility. And it's a self-contained unit. And my response to that is any composting is great, and that would be considered a compliance activity that you pass on. And although we may not be receiving the yard waste or organics from that organization, I don't think that that's such a large impact that it will impact our operations here. I think that if you're composting, that is what we want. Our ultimate goal is to keep organics out of the landfill, and that is achieved by using the mill.
So what you're saying is there's a way to work around the compliance issue of, because you're supposed to be achieving higher levels of green waste.
Yeah,
And that restaurant used to be a big provider, and now it's gonna be zero.
and that's okay. I mean, our ultimate goal is to keep the organics out of the landfill completely. So whether they compost on site on their own or they use our services here on site, that's fine. We're pleased either way.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you. Great comment. Anyone else?
Good. No, all right.
Okay,
Thank you, Kristen.
thank you.
Appreciate your time. All right, we'll move on to 8B, January 2025 financial reports. All right.
Good morning, everyone. I'll quickly run through the results for the district here through 7 months through January of 2025. Our revenue, our tip fee revenue is about 23.5 million, and we are about 2 million behind budget. And the biggest explanation for that is primarily in November, December, we had a large reduction in material coming from green waste in San Jose, because they were not sending as much material for they had their other reasons, they had contractual obligations they had to fulfill, so they were not sending material here. So basically in December, we got practically nothing from them. And so that's had a big impact on the tip fee revenue year to date. Our other revenue, our power revenue continues to sort of be on the downside just because of the uptime that the power generating equipment is running. However, the good news is the MRF continues to do very well. We're moving a lot of product and commodity prices continue to stay fairly high. On the expense side of things, our employment expenses are pretty much on budget for the year. In January, we did make a $500,000 discretionary payment to CalPERS towards our unfunded liability. So that's not really had too much of a negative impact on the operating results. But then the plan going forward is that we will make that $500,000 payment annually, and that will occur in January of each year. Net income through January is just a little over 4 million. We're about 900,000 below budget and about 550,000 lower than the same period last year. So in general, things are looking reasonably good, and as long as we can continue to get the good revenue from the MRF can stay on the positive side, and we will probably do fairly well. In terms of material activity, tonnage received through the year to date in January is about 511,000 tons compared to 595,000 tons last year. So we're about 84,000 tons less. The biggest portion of that difference is MSW material. And again, that comes back to the material that comes from green waste in San Jose. Our diversion rate, 12-month rolling diversion rate, has ticked up slightly to 63.3% from 62.8% the prior month. And the number continues to be in the 60 to 65%. The number does not fluctuate very much from month to month. And that's kind of where we are through January. Any questions? I'd be happy to take them.
Question. On the discussion on November, December with San Jose and the effect on the better worse than budget. We did undoubtedly we did not budget for it this year. Will we be budgeting for that next year? Or will this be a recurring situation with San Jose?
Well, we really don't know what they might or may not do next year. Like this kind of came as a big surprise to us when all of a sudden we weren't getting any trucks from San Jose. And so we called them and they told us, but we could probably inquire and find out, but how much they'll tell us, we don't know.
Is this a situation that could happen during the course of the year randomly?
It could.
Or is it just a unique situation?
Well, I like to think it's kind of a unique situation because it has not happened in the past with green waste in San Jose. They have been very consistent with the material they've sent. Just going back a little bit into history, when they started out, they have a contract that says they're supposed to send us 150,000 tons minimum annually. Well, they started out gangbusters. They were sending 300,000 tons in the first couple of years. And, we were taking that all in. And then the beginning of 2021, they told us we're going to be sending less material. We're probably going to go down about 10,000 tons a month because of contractual obligations they have. So we knew about that one. But this most recent one kind of came as a surprise.
Do we have a concern, we're going into 2036 between now and then of them tapering down or modifying their tonnage, or is this again unique?
I think this is unique. However, they could modify their tonnage going forward, depending on what their contractual situations are. And ideally, they will give us a heads up as to what they're doing if there is any significant change in the amount of material coming here. But we're not expecting anything drastic to change.
You communicate with them?
Director Byrne, just a minute. Okay.
We do. We're in constant communication. There is a minimum criteria of the volume that's coming in. So we can build our budget on the minimum volume, but then we overshoot and anticipate. So we're gonna look at the volume that comes in, take that average of that volume and continue to expect that kind of volume to come in. But this is precisely why we focused on this subject in the workshop, because it could happen at any given time. And are we gonna be prepared as an organization to stand alone when the volume tapers down or tapers up? And how we wanna put ourselves in a better bargaining position when that occurs. So right now, that contract goes to 2036, has a minimum criteria. For the majority of the years in that term, they have exceeded that minimum criteria, which has been a benefit to our organization. But this is exactly why we're having the discussion 11 years before 2036, because you could imagine the hole in the bag, per se, at 2036 on all of it just coming to a stop and not having a pathway for the organization to move forward either with a different contract or independently of those contracts and putting ourselves in a better bargaining position. But great questions, but the contract is valid. It is through 2036, has a minimum tonnage criteria. But keep in mind, they've been exceeding it. Thus, when they taper down, we notice right away because they're not achieving the prior year's number. But could happen at any given time. I agree with Garth. They will. We did take it as a runoff. We did dial up our contacts and say, hey, what's going on? That's how we knew they had other contractual obligations. And usually what that means is they have a source where they can deliver that material at a better cost than what they're delivering it to us. That's usually what it is. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you, Garth.
David, you wanted to add?
Yeah, can I add something?
Sure,
to what
sure.
Felipe mentioned? It's also a indication of economic activity as well. So the fluctuations in tonnage can change depending on how much people are buying, how much people are consuming. So that comes into consideration. And then in the longer term picture, we've been talking about SB 1383, reduction in material going to the landfill, organics getting taken out. So we may be also seeing in the future years, tonnages start to reduce as disposal starts to reduce with the organics being pulled out. So there's a lot of moving parts, and past performance is going to be hard to predict future performance in any situation.
Director McKee?
When you do next year's budget, would you share with us the thought process and what's included in the budget relative to San Jose?
Definitely, because they are far and away our biggest customer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they will.
By that time, you'll be 6 more months.
Yeah.
Experienced and the let us know.
Yeah, we'll use the best information we have to do the budget for next year, and we will make sure everybody's informed.
In current day dollars, it's about $9 million of revenue annually that we get from green waste recoveries. And we'll make our projection whether it's gonna be a projected over 9 million or a projection at 9 million or under the 9 million.
Director Byrne, did you still have a question?
No.
Director Delgado?
Yeah, at our recent budget retreat, which I wasn't able to attend in person, but I did watch it online. There was some reference about 2036 is going, our existing contract needing to be looked at, and landfill life versus taking in other external garbage, that push and pull. And recently, we spent a lot of effort on a document that explained a white paper approach to our waste, our landfill life, and our ability to get money in from the outside at the expense of our landfill life. And I'm forgetful enough that having that document available is really helpful if I ever want to refresh on this push and pull. I'm just wondering if the new board members have seen it, have read it, because your eyes are the kind of eyes we want to see it, to know if it does the trick of explaining in English, you know, the pros and cons of our approach. And if your eyes looked at it and said, this document doesn't make sense, or this document's great, but hey, I have some lingering questions after reading the document, we can improve that as a living document. So I'm just wondering, were you provided it? Have you read it?
So I haven't provided, I read it, but I think I need to do a reread because I'm still getting familiar with the terms.
Yeah.
But I think it does help.
All right, and you too, Dan?
Yeah, so
Okay, so with that as a reference, this unfunded liability occurs. I have to refresh myself every few years because I can't remember all the details of how it works. And so my main comment on what you said, Garth, was if we could put together like a 10-page, a mini white paper, not a big deal like we did for the landfill life, but to explain why we're spending, and maybe we already have it because we recently had to decide if we put 500 grand in, and we had a staff report. So do we now have kind of a white paper on where we are with the unfunded liability and how we're gonna get to fully funded if ever? And why we're putting 500,000 if we can afford it every year into that?
Yes, we have that information and yes, we can.
I mean, we have a
compile-
document that explains it. like,
We don't
you're
actually,
public,
we don't actually have a document
We
right
don't have,
now.
a document. We just have what we presented to the board.
Which is a good
We,
start.
we can use that resource to create a document that explains. You know, we have $18 million in CalPERS liability. If we paid the minimum criteria, we'd wind up paying 58 million. And so by paying the additional payment, we go downwards rather than upwards in the volume. It's probably not 10 pages, it's probably more like 3 or 4 pages.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's kind of like a home mortgage, right? Do you put more into your principal than you
Exactly.
need to?
Yeah.
But if someone on the street said, hey, tell me about CalFIRS unfunded liability and how's ReGen doing, I'd say, let me get back to you. And then I'd go and I'd ask, but if I had a document I could go to, I'd say, here, what do you think? Should we spend more money on this to get it down or not? So maybe in the next year or so, we can have some explanation, some explanatory document on that.
Well, if somebody asks you about the CalPERS unfunded liability, you could say truthfully that, well, according to CalPERS, we're okay. Even though we have a $17-18 million unfunded liability. Every government agency out there has unfunded liabilities. Not everyone, but 99% of them do. And, they look at certain criteria when they're doing their calculations and their and they come back and say, if you're in this range, then you're fine. You just keep making your annual payments and you'll eventually pay off. Now, we've taken the approach, we want to pay it off faster and save a good chunk of money in interest. So, but bottom line is we're okay. It's a big number, but it's not like we're in trouble.
There's different ways to look at it.
Yeah.
We could increase tip fees, pay it off sooner and save millions of dollars of taxpayer money in the long run. But that push and pull is kind of like the push and pull of landfill life.
Right.
Yeah, I think that just says.
Yes.
So we have what, looks like we have 24 million in investments, and it's listed that it's with Lath today.
Correct.
There was a column said that the maturity is immediate. What does that mean? Like, can we pull the funds at any time or?
Yes, we have our cash is divided into different categories. We have restricted funds.
Designated.
And designated funds, and then we have unrestricted funds, which means, yes, we can access that money anytime. For anything we want to use it for.
The 4.3% or something that was listed, is that like a rolling number or is it a fixed rate that we receive?
From
Lath?
no, it varies. Every month they publish what the yields are.
Okay.
Fortunately, the yields have been sort of increasing a little bit each month. So they're a heck of a lot better than they were like 5 years ago when it was like 0.8%.
The reason I ask is because in our city, I'm just contrasting this, because we actually do not have like one singular pool that we like put everything in. It's divided into chunks, 250,000 or less, because there's just like managing money better, but it's with different institutions. And it's rolled over some period of time, so it's a different structure here, but if it's working, it's working. So
Yeah, so far we have just been with Lath and that seems to be adequate.
thank you.
Thank you. I just have a super quick question. The C&D diversion rate went up.
Yes,
Say why?
it's likely just dependent on the quality of the material that comes through, which we don't really have any control over. What comes in and we process it, and if more of it's diverted, then that's great. So it's hard, I'm not gonna guarantee it's gonna stay at that level,
Okay.
but it'd be nice.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kurt.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Nope.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Director Blackwelder,
I'm
go.
not outspoken, President. I'm curious, are there new landfills coming online?
All the time.
Oh, you know that for a fact. Cause I'd like to hear what you have to say about these new landfills.
Good luck.
Cause they start talking about contractual obligations, it's like. I was under the impression that we were the only
game in town. And so they're bringing their stuff to us. So if there are new landfills that are popping up somewhere that are taking their stuff, but they're still maintaining their obligation to us, but in 36, they decide that, was it 36?
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
36, yeah.
But they decide that, oh, well, we have better offers over here that came online, other contractual obligations, so we're probably not gonna send our stuff.
Well,
Do
you
you know
know,
of anything like that?
well, we're one of many places that San Jose could take material
Oh.
to. So, for them, it's an economic choice and, back when the contract was signed, yeah, we were a really good option, but they may decide, we're tired of hauling this stuff all the way to Marina. Let's find someplace closer to where we are. And they have contracts with like the city of San Jose and, Santa Clara County, and they probably specify where material is supposed to go. And then that can have an impact on us. But they know as long as they meet their minimum annual volume, they're fine.
Now, does this stuff ever get marketed? I mean, like, us going out, having a full understanding of all the other landfills and what they're probably offering and representing ourselves so that when we do get into contractual obligations, we have a better view of what we're looking at instead of, oh, well, we're not gonna take your stuff anymore or send our stuff anymore. Anyway.
Yeah, well, there definitely is a market out there and there are, people here that watch what's happening out in the marketplace. And so there may be opportunities to bid on a contract with another landfill. And that has happened in the past year where, they have made bids and they haven't always got them, but it just even, or they may just look and say, no, it's, the volume's not high enough, or, they're expecting a price that we just can't meet. So we're not even gonna bid.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Director
So
Brown.
I believe, just like my colleagues have already shared, that's why we had the conversation during the workshop. So that we can learn about what we want to do and have that discussion now about diversifying and then how to move forward so we can be prepared for any of these unforeseen issues. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, that's definitely part of it, because the volume from green waste is great to have, but we don't want to become totally dependent on that.
Exactly.
It's a big number, but we want to start thinking about that. We may have to one day live without that, and what can we do to essentially replace that
Right,
that revenue.
diversification.
Yeah.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, and I guess I want to make the point, at this point, we're passive about this. It's not like we're going out and marketing our landfill to places. I think it's, we wait and see if a contract comes our way. And then we make some decisions, right? But, and we haven't had any recently. But it, again, that's a decision that we'll make as we move forward, how we want to approach our landfill and its use.
Yeah,
Any other?
well, I guess it has to do with other things other projects that we have on the, that we want to do. It's gonna take a lot of money to be able to pull it off. And I haven't really heard anything about that other project, even know if it's even gonna be something that we pursue, but anyway. Nothing else.
Yeah, no doubt, we will have many more conversations about this in the future.
And we'll see it instantaneously going into the March committee meetings. You'll start seeing some discussions that are being presented to the finance and personnel committee around the San Jose volume, our current year, possibly CPI adjustment to the gate rate, what it means to the cities, how much of that is palatable. So we're gonna start having very intensive discussions just around that, mainly because we have an 11-year window to do something about it, or we continue to lose time and those increments of values become more difficult to achieve. So I'm very excited to hear that from Director Blackwelder. We do look at most of the public agencies. This time around, I'm gonna look at some privates. We can call in and get some gate rate pricing. But always keep in mind that the gate rate price doesn't indicate what the contractual rate could be. So there is as a private, coming from private, we evaluate what our cost is and how much our margin is going to be. So they're gonna look at that. What is the cost to do business? What is the profit and margin? And that's where they want to do business at. Those are the two main components privates look like. When you look at the public side, not necessarily the same. You're looking at the services that are being rendered what is palatable and how much are those essential to the public service delivery of those products. And that's what we're gonna be evaluating in these next months, and I believe this board is gonna be a board that will make monumental decisions for the future of the organization on how do we keep these public services that are so valued in our community thriving, even when we're ready to release a large contract that has unfavorable pricing and impacts our term of our landfill life. We are gonna be able to control that destiny, so I'm very eager and excited. Maybe a reason why I had the workshop on my birthday was so we can continue to move these items forward, right? We wanna really push them forward. And we really wanna have these in-depth discussions, and then also, one of the questions that Director Rudaski brought up in our workshop is how do we communicate those impacts to our community? So I got a bunch of owls like Garf and Helen that are running around running models so that we can share some of these impactful numbers, what it means to the residents, what does it mean to the gate ratepayer. So we're working rapidly on how to mitigate that 2036 impact, Director Blackwelder. So we're pretty excited that we're turning the corner. It's not an item that we're holding at staff discretion. It is out to the board. It now should be out to the public that we are gonna make these major considerations on, is it landfill life, is it independency, or is it continue the same track? When we make a decision of the same thing, we don't have to wait till 2036. We can pick up phone calls and start making calls now and working out those deals. So I'm excited to get into the discussions at the committee meetings and then bringing more items in the next March board meeting. So we're gonna have a little bit more items on our plate over the next 4 months, working through budget items and working through future items that we can mitigate starting now. So I'm pretty excited, and thank you for your interest, Director Blackwelder and the rest of the board on this item. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Thank you, Felipe. All right, thank you, Garth.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, we have no other correspondence. We'll move on to general manager communications.
I have a few today. I wanted to start off with that we had a productive meeting with some elected officials serving on the subcommittee for Marina around odors, and that was about an hour long. We talked about some of the upgrades to our infrastructure, the LOSI system that was approved, and then we also worked on what are some of those next steps and how do we participate in that. So overall, I would say it was a great meeting, and looking for others to continue to participate and commit to odor mitigation for our neighbors around us. Second item I have is that we're proud again to partner with Cal State University Monterey Bay, the Veterans Transition Center, the folks at Last Chance Mercantile to have another year with artists in residence. And this year we have selected 2 artists, Melanie Gatica and Ashley Brunetti were selected, and they will go through about 2 months of putting art together with materials that are located here at our facility. They're given a location at Last Chance Mercantile. And then we will get to see an exhibit from the 2 artists with many items that will be there. Those items will be auctioned off, and we're going to be pretty excited to have the artists back to ReGen again and able to support our local education and pathways for our community residents as well. We also had our communication specialist, Franco Guzman. He was selected to participate in our Leadership Monterey County's 2025 cohort. We're pretty excited about it. We had a few members of our team already go through the leadership cohort. It gives them insights to other businesses, other partnerships and networking opportunities within our county. So we're pretty excited that we have another personnel from ReGen to participate in Monterey Leadership County's 2025 cohort. And my final item is, again, LOSI system. We want to be talking about all the good that we're doing for the environment and the improvements in our landfill. David, myself, and Kristen O'Hara, our communications manager, visited MBART's board meeting this week. David was able to deliver a presentation around LOSI. I was able to introduce our organization to the new board members there of who we are, what we represent and the public services that we're delivering to the community. And that went extremely well, and we're very excited to hear other members of the community and even outside of our county. We've had San Benito and Santa Cruz County electives there hearing what we're bringing to the table, and also hearing them saying, how do I get that to where I'm at? Because we want to have that same kind of type of environmental impact. So I want to thank David Ramirez and Kristen for attending the MBAR meeting and supporting our outreach to other agencies to show what we do, how we provide service. You know, MBAR is one of the oversight bodies that regulates over ReGen Monterey. So it was extremely important for us to share what we're doing to mitigate fugitive emissions from our landfill. And I believe Rich Stedman and his staff were pretty excited about the contributions that this board has made to our county and to our residents. So thank you very much, David. And that will conclude my general manager comments.
Thank you, Felipe. Yes, Director McKee.
On the first item on the odor subcommittee, little background history, has that been going on for a number of years? And how has it evolved over the years? Because when it first started, undoubtedly, there was, I won't say difficulties, but opportunities. And
you know, so when I got here, immediately I was introduced to Citizens for a Sustainable Marina. And they already had an established group, you know, really calling out the people that contribute to odors in their region. And I started off with, you know, general information, what we're doing. I, you know, showed a willingness that we want to participate, how we're regulated, what we're doing. I've made several visits to Marina. We had the odor study visit. So our improvement of the relationship and the perspective of the community is we're involved, we're participating, we're sharing all the information that we can. And even as we entered into a 15-year agreement for our composting facility, we did not sign the agreement until we allowed Marina to give us feedback and input on that agreement. So the relationship is much improved. You know, one of the things I heard from the subcommittee is how do they get others to be involved like we are with caring about the odor impacts that we contribute to the community. So the ag, some of the other areas and contributors that are maybe not coming to the table or maybe not being held accountable for their contributions, we're invoking a little bit of that by being part of that discussion. So I feel that we've improved our position, and yet we want to see the results that are coming. The CAS, the new composting system, covered area static pile, will help improve emissions and odors, and also the reduction of landfill emissions, fugitive emissions will also reduce that as well. So we're excited to see the number tape off, and hopefully statistics are favorable that the amount of complaints are being reduced with the impacts that we're doing to change our systems to be accountable for that. So excellent question. We are perceived very well in the community, but also are aware that we do have impacts. So when we do, we go out, we verify the report, we go and try to analyze, we review what's going on in our operation and see if there's anything we can do at that point to mitigate the odor contribution that we have here at ReGen Monterey.
thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
Any other comments? No, okay. We will move on to board communications. Any directors have board communications? Director Delgado?
Following up on what we just talked about, ReGen, Felipe, and all the staff are doing way more than any other agency that might be contributing odors. And I wanted the board to hear a couple of real life examples that are recent, so you understand kind of what we're up against better. Even I didn't really grasp this until these couple incidents happened. One, a woman who lives at the bottom of the hill, and I think the odors, like fog, can settle, told me that she's thinking of moving from Marina, even though her family is here, her grandkids are here, because there's so frequently odoriferous experience that she can't handle. So she drives to PG or East Garrison to walk her dog. And then she told me that down her street, a realtor had an open house, And the realtor told her that she was thinking of closing down the open house because the realtor couldn't stomach the odors. And I thought, if the realtor who's having the open house can't stomach the odors, it's probably not good for prospective buyers that are going to the open house. Do I want to live here with these odors? So that kind of gave me a real life check-in. And then I realized that there's 1,360 homes between Marina and here that are starting to be constructed. And we have stable, quiet board meetings. And I know what it's like being on city council to have regular visitors complaining about particular items. And these 1,360 new homeowners, if they get odors, they're going to be coming to us. And it's kind of like the 2036 deadline, you know, we have a few years before that happens. And so I'm just hoping that we're as proactive as possible, and we have been, but I don't think the city has done all it can with the other potential source generators of odors. But it's a pretty serious issue now that we're not really aware of. And I think with 1,360 new homes closer to us, it's going to become a bigger issue unless we mitigate it now, reduce it now.
Thank you. Any other board communications? Oh, Director Rudescu.
Thank you. I just want to say how fantastic it was. I have the honor of, in addition to sitting on ReGen board, sitting on the Air District board. And so having the presentation from our ReGen team at the Air District, it was incredibly well received by the board at the Air District about the LOCI and I think it's always good for ReGen to celebrate the innovative work that's happening. And it was clear that the folks at the Air District were interested in learning more about what happens operationally at ReGen. So just wanted to say thank you to the team for coming over and sharing a little bit more. And it dawned on me that there's a lot more opportunities, I think, for us to educate, even among people that we think maybe already are educated about what we're doing here at ReGen. And to Bruce's point as well, I'll just piggyback. One of the highlights in the annual report from the Air District, they received complaints from the public, and the largest number of complaints that they received over the last year, 45% of the complaints that came in were odor related. However, they were not able to identify any type of a pattern or trend associated over the past year with those odor complaints. And so the question that sort of remains for me is, you know, I think ReGen has maybe one role to play, but there are other partners who have odor producing activities. And so how we collectively are continuing to work to identify, you know, where those source odors may be coming from, who is responsible. And we also know that some of those potential source odors, you know, we are a right to farm community. And so there may actually not be mitigations that anyone can regulate for some of those potential source odors. But to get our arms around that, because I think Bruce is right, or the mayor's right, that that folks who if they don't understand the causes and we're not clear about the causes or who has regulatory authority, we are going to hear from angry residents, and they're not just going to come to the Marina City Hall. They're going to come to us and Monterey Wind Water and others. And so we need to be prepared to document and show what we're doing, and in fact that we are not contributing to those complaints and those situations. So anyway, thank you for having me remote today. And I know there was a couple technical difficulties, but I do appreciate the ability to continue to participate even though I'm not in town today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Director Rudescu. All right, so I think that's, Director Byrne.
Got three things, actually, try to be quick. First, in the Carmel Cares Advisory Committee meeting, now that I'm on this board, all of a sudden everybody became very interested in ReGen and what's going on here. So we've got a partnership that we've set up with Stevenson School, the lower school, with their Ocean Guardian program, and they're going to be producing students are going to produce ads on recycling for the Pinecone and maybe the Herald. It might be good to have somebody from your team get involved a little bit with that. Because they can educate them on what are the apps and sort of thing. That's gonna be happening pretty soon. So we're excited about that. But in addition, we switched on Carmel Beach to the pig bags because the green ones were just going in the ocean and we can see these. But all of a sudden, everybody's really interested. These are plastic. It's not good. And I'd like to talk to somebody at the landfill about this. So I just ordered 4 cases of these and we're gonna experiment with them, which are compostable. We'll see how that works out. So hopefully that'll keep stuff out of it because there's a lot of them. We use a lot of them. The third thing is, we got a grant for, as part of a program to track improving waste that ends up on the street. So we're gonna buy 3 ribbon cans that are higher quality. The ribbon cans that Carmel's been buying are not high quality and they're rusted, they're bad. So we're gonna invest in ones that have the laser device on them. I don't know if you've seen these things, but it tells you when you need to empty the can. Apparently Pittsburgh reduced the number of trucks they have from 12 to 3 using 2,500 of these in their technology, which is pretty incredible. So we're gonna have 3 of those within 60 days and give them to the green waste drivers who are good friends, and it'll tell them when to pick up the remote cans. I'll report back on how that works out because it's pretty interesting technology if it works. That's it.
Great, thank you. Okay, at this point, we're gonna move into closed session to discuss, and so we'll have Rob read us in, and then once we have closed session, we'll go back to open session and address agenda item 7A. So at this point, I'll have Rob read us into our closed session.
All right, you're going into closed session with regard to the item that's listed relative to a personnel matter having to do with the potential for retaining a new firm and lawyer as your legal counsel going forward for the district.
lost your mind.
Rob, we lost your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Okay, did you hear what I
We heard
just?
the very first part.
Oh, okay, all right, anyway, so this is the closed session relative to the personnel matter as listed on the agenda relative to the retaining of new legal counsel.
All right, thank you, Rob. Okay,
Are you gonna open that to the public for a comment before we go in?
oh, yes, good idea. Let's open it up for public comment before we move into closed session. Thank you for the reminder.
Okay, now that I'm a member of the public, the comment I would like to make is, Rob, your firm has served us well for 53 years. And we are so grateful for that, for all this time. You have been here forever and we will miss you very much. And I hope we find a replacement as good as you and your firm. And I wish you very good luck in the future.
Thank you, Karen.
Right. And with that, thank you, Karen. Appreciate your time here. What, thank you. Okay, Rob, would you like to read us out of closed session?
The board went into closed session to discuss the agenda item having to do with the personnel matter. The discussion took place. No reportable action was taken. The board will directed a committee to consider further interviews with the proposed applicants, and that will be then reported back to the board. No other action was taken.
Okay, thank you. So I guess legally, I probably have to ask for public comment on 7A, but I don't think we have anyone to comment. So we'll end that agenda item, and I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and we will see everyone on March 21st.